This edition of Railscene has a mountainous theme, from the Snowdon Mountain Railway feature to peaks, the West Highlands and West Wales. The feature on the Snowdon line appears later in the programme. The last official peak working on the Midland Main Line took place on Sunday the 10th of May 1987, but they still made occasional appearances thereafter. This is 45104, the Royal Warwickshire Fusiliers, on the 1713 from St Pancras to Derby. Peaks have always been associated with the Midland Main Line, and these scenes at Siston Junction are already a thing of the past. The semaphores are gone, and the peaks will probably be gone by the end of the year. "45130, withdrawn in May 1987, recalls the class's long association with Towton Depot, with an appropriate snail emblem as she takes the 208s north for repair, the second sporting a Stratford Cockney Sparrow. BR Sulzer Type 4s, as the peaks were originally called, were built at Derby and Crewe, Derby dealing with repairs until these ceased. On the Hope Valley route through the Peak District, an unidentified 45 appeared to be doing all the work as she headed west towards Edale and Manchester after a signal stop. The last mainline service operated by Peaks was the Transpennine route. Here a westbound 45 leaves Standedge Tunnel and crosses to London Midland territory, heading towards Manchester. These services have since been taken over by Sprinters. Manchester Victoria has always provided a grandstand of dying breeds of motive power, and details of non-ETH fitted 45 noughts are seen on number 41's panel. .45-139 is seen entering Huddersfield with another Transpennine working, heading east towards Leeds and York. She was withdrawn on the 27th of April 1987. At the eastern end of the route, having left Scarborough some half an hour earlier, a peak-hauled Transpennine working skirts the River Derwent in East Yorkshire. Gateshead was for a long time a major Class 45 and 46 depot, so our final shot in this peak tribute is at the northeastern depot. When seen at Salisbury in early June, the 50040 bore the name Leviathan, but when it rolled in as the locomotive for our cab ride, it had changed to Centurion, the name previously borne by the withdrawn 50011, complete with crests.
Well, hold these up here.
Clip them on.
We set out from platform 4, always the main West of England departure platform, although now bi-directional and available for up-workings as well. To the left is the site of the former Salisbury MPD, to the right the former Great Western lines.
There you are.
I say my nephew would be proud of me.
Where's that glass, mate?
He's better
Why
than
we're all on the inside, huh?
No, it was
No, it's all
quite
right.
okay.
It's
We
okay.
cleaned it
Yeah.
up
It's
inside.
all right inside, yeah. Just the outside, yeah. I left a message last night that they was to clean these off.
Oh, done a good job, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're from Exeter.
That's
Yeah.
right, yes.
I'm Jeremy English.
That's Jeremy.
How do you, Jeremy? I'm off.
Alf.
Alf.
Yeah.
Hi, Alf.
Crompton on here.
Oh,
Yeah, we didn't want a lot of that.
Oh, I see. We got flat batteries on there.
Yeah. The engine got
At Wilton Junction, the ex-Great Western route to Warminster, Westbury and Bristol branches right. The Great Western used to have independent lines from Salisbury until the 1970s.
running around with flat batteries.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm a great believer in when it comes to Salisbury, like overnight, I shut them down. And then they said, well, they won't start after enough. I told them, why, put new bloody batteries on them. I said, you wouldn't run it going, sure. So anyway, we put the Crompton on it, you see. Only the trouble was,
The South-Western Main Line was singled in 1966, after the Western region took it over in 1963. The single line starts at Wilton with a severe speed restriction.
so the fitter moved the jumper up one and putting on 14 volts. He bloody started then.
Not surprised.
He started then. Yeah.
Exeter's attitude was the troubles they had 2 years ago with, or 3
I
years
suppose,
ago,
yeah,
with the
yeah.
Great Western.
But we think it'd be a marvellous do. Well, you take what
It'd be perfect.
he's doing now. I mean, his chances are on this Weymouth run every day, any old Daniels. Give him credit. I mean, we thought
What's he doing?
Well, we thought there might be a potential money in running a train from Salisbury to Weymouth by a Yeovil.
Yes.
So we send TC stock in every day. 5 past 10 from Salisbury, goes down and picks up at Tisbury, Sherborne.
The second station out, Dinton, was, like Wilton, closed in 1966. The yard is still used for military purposes, and the former upline is retained for this reason.
Yeah, I think the thing was, he started up a bit too early.
Yeah.
He should have waited for the school holidays.
Yes.
But now we still got it running. The school holidays are on, and we're hoping to make a kick-off with it now.
Yes.
You know, but you'll see it in the books written down into area. They put all sorts of pressures on it.
Yes.
But it didn't interfere with nothing. In fact, it turned out very well.
Oh, it's the army thing,
Yeah.
or Air Force.
Yeah.
Army, yeah.
Yeah, Army. Yeah, and it played out very well.
I've always thought that.
Which we all
The
said,
single
I think
line
we spent
has
3
caused much late running over the past 20 years. So in 1986, the Southern, which has regained control of the line as far as Sherborne, installed a loop at Tisbury to break the long Wilton to Gillingham section.
Shut Yeovil, you remember it? Albert, it was a matter of shutting Yeovil Junction, wasn't it? And the passengers had to travel by bus to Sherborne, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
And we did win around, I say, 1991 it's spring.
Tisbury is now the first station out from Salisbury and serves a military area.
Yeah.
We've bad reports about it so far, mate.
Yeah, of course these haven't been built yet, they're brand new idea. I was surprised how many was up there. But what for-
Shaftesbury was avoided by the railway, and its station was at Semley, its principal traffic being
And he was
milk.
one of the leading lights of the watercress line. He kept on to me all the time I was in there. And I used to take loads of stuff for Rowie and to keep him happy, like, you know.
Yes.
And he'd always implore me to go up on the watercress line.
The railway briefly runs through Dorset, serving the small town of Gillingham.
Everything got a sitter until he gets you.
Here both platforms are retained to form a crossing loop, where we cross the 0938 from Exeter to Waterloo.
At least one standby engine.
Yeah,
sort of thing, isn't
see, we didn't like it one little bit, and we argued like mad, but they said the business manager says, and that's the end of it.
it? Yes. Is that doesn't necessarily take into account?
No, as I said to them, they're all right. They're in 5 stories up. They don't see people, we do.
If they want to talk about business management, they've got to talk in terms of what the customer sees.
That's right. I said then, of course, one day they when it happened, we knocked out an extra train, and I told our governor all along. I said, if they want, the passengers are not going to hammer me. I'm going to send them up. Let them hammer you. Well, he happened to be in the office when it
Yes.
happened, so I sent him into him. I said, well, there he is, round the back. Or you want to sort him out, not me. I've argued enough. I mean, we're here to do a service. You can't do a service if you shutting places down.
That's right.
You can't do it.
Perhaps having to use the Western region. Very sad.
Right.
We're away.
Trains might take.
How far did you film on the HSD to Plymouth then?
I just did from Exeter to Plymouth.
Oh, I see.
And then I came back on it as well.
All right.
fact, I went down on a 50. Came back on an HST.
Oh, yeah.
Now, someone else has done it. You may
Congratulate you on your flower display, doesn't it look nice?
The first tunnel on the route is at Buckhorn Weston, at the top of the banks out of Gillingham and Temple Combe.
That's what it's all display, doesn't it look nice? Yeah, it was funny she come and said when he was there, right?
Yes.
That's what it's all about. I mean, that's what I like.
appropriate, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose this is one reason you can't redouble it. The tunnels drag out.
The whole way of life for the town.
Temple Combe, where the Somerset and Dorset Railway used to connect, is one of the line's success stories. The station was closed in 1966, but an action committee persuaded BR to reopen it. Takings were 4 times the minimum required, and its future seems assured.
And then he was Secretary of Sectional Council. He birthed there, didn't he, up the side? He actually birthed there.
Yes, you got a.
Yeah.
Even though there was another shed round the corner.
He had his own little shed up here, yeah. That was the old Somerset and Dorset shed.
Double line commences at Temple Combe, the up road being bi-directional. When trains are not scheduled to pass on this section, down trains use the up line, as the station buildings at Sherborne are on this side.
Yeah, soon takes over, doesn't it?
Mother Nature does, yeah. Not out, yeah.
Absolutely. It must be confusing with Pro and so on, where they were changing all the track layouts and so on, and they were having to take 6 drivers up in a DMU.
Yeah.
They could show 30 or 40 on a screen first.
Yeah.
They haven't got to take a train out on the road.
Yeah.
They can then all go out with a train individually later.
Then
They've
learn
at
it from
least
there.
seen them.
Yeah.
When the line was singled in 1966, a double track section was retained from Temple Combe to Sherborne. Within 6 months, this was proven impracticable, and the section was extended to Yeovil Junction.
There's quite a lot of railway left here, really, isn't there?
They used to bring a load of chalk stuff up. They filled. That was a triangle. The other
Much of the layout at Yeovil Junction remains for the use of the engineers. A turntable also remains, used by steam locomotives working the Blackmore Vale Express from Salisbury.
a lot of this chalk stuff. They filled quite a lot.
A cord remains to the Great Western route via Yeovil Pen Mill, and plans exist for a further cord to enable Weymouth trains to connect with Exeter trains at Yeovil Junction.
Going into the down platform.
All trains use the former Up Island platform, which is now designated Up and Down. Most trains cross here.
Fortuitous, wasn't it, that the engineers retained it?
What made me laugh was when Gerald Daniel said he was going down to measure up the table. I said, what for? And he said to see if a merchant navy could turn. I said, it was built for a bloody merchant navy. That's what it was built for.
Yeah.
Because it was a very small, old-fashioned, well, it's old-fashioned now. It was a very small old table there years ago for small engines. And when we started coming down here with the merchant navies, they definitely built that especially to carry a merchant navy.
Yes, I assumed it was a short turntable when I first heard about it.
It was built specially for the merchant navy. So I said, oh, Joe, what the hell are you talking about? I said, it's built specially for the merchant navy. It's built for it. And he said, so some bloke come in, he was a spotter, and he said, of course, you want me to turn it over? I said, why not? He said, I've measured the big. I want to measure from
One of
wheel
our
to wheel.
technicians from Lear there. There's the bus, look over.
Oh, yeah, one of the minibuses.
I'm sure it's free, too.
Yeah.
I'm sure I see free buses last week.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they got to have something in it to get them in, don't they? It's a long way to Yeovil Town from here, you know?
Yeah.
What it is.
Was that turntable used in the meantime up until the steam?
No. Old Clarkey, that used to be the foreman at our place, when we was on about it, we phoned him up because he lives down the road here, down here somewhere. We phoned it, and he came across and oiled it and see if it would go, and he made it go, so he phoned back and said, yes, it works.
So they've just been there.
Just luckily,
yeah.
Hey, lovely place, that reservoir, isn't it?
Yeah.
Remember when they built that, I just couldn't make sense of it, you know. I used to come down here every day watching them, and they put this piece across here, you know. And I thought to myself, well, how the hell's that going to be a reservoir? And suddenly they flooded the valley.
That's one station that nobody's ever acted like it's trying to be one station.
That was the old flow. Old tractor engine on the lorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
On the bridge.
Yeah.
Roller it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I belong to all the Alf did the...
That was the first piece of welding.
Crewkerne is the last station in Somerset and was another major milk depot.
Picture, all
The camera shape, you get anything.
right. Yeah.
Well, obviously, but
It doesn't show up so much on the wide angle. That's the advantage. Do we actually trip the signal here?
No, not now, not one of the...
It's funny that they built this bit of the line so curved. Most of it's straight.
Yeah.
Do anything right, the day well, is it?
A milk depot remains at Chard Junction, but milk is no longer conveyed by train. Here we pass the Exeter to Portsmouth train, a service which commenced with the May 1987 timetable.
Yeah, ragtag and bobtail, isn't it? Yeah.
With those Scottish sets up,
Yeah.
up from the corner, they've got blue and white, they've got the old
Yeah.
blue, they've got ScotRail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw one.
We had never had a guard in those days.
Axminster was best known as the junction for the Lyme Regis branch, which ran to the south here. The line was worked by the well-known Adams radial tanks.
And into Exeter, then up to Exeter that way.
It is.
Yeah, you could do one. They still have the big 800 standard tanks on it, though. 82s.
Some hot milk.
The Seaton branch connected at Seaton Junction, now closed, which also boasted a milk depot, which remained open after the closure of the station. The former up-platform line remains, although the loop is now disconnected.
Is that just left in with the engineers now then?
Must be.
Take it out now. Frame bit, take it out.
Oh, yeah.
No longer
Yeah.
is at all.
Yeah. This old on it needs line boxing is better. How do you call it?
The bank was actually held.
Honiton Tunnel is at the top of the bank from Axminster, which was a major obstacle in steam days.
I couldn't tell you his name. Black Air's not.
Honiton is the last major stop before Exeter and is the last passing loop on the route. The station buildings are on the down side and the down line is bi-directional.
Yeah, it sounds like old
Plenty of
Spreadbury.
people here.
In fact, I wouldn't mind betting it with old Spreadbury. I think he's restricted now. He got some illness.
Have they? What have they done there? Taking the canopy down or what? Platform was wider. Or extended the platform.
But we do the bloody lot. We do the operate with two cars rubbish. We do.
Your PW, are you?
What?
You.
Traction better.
Oh, you're traction.
Yeah, I'm covering. I'm a traffic supervisor. Yeah. Yeah.
Finneton is the former Sidmouth Junction, closed in 1966 and reopened in the 1970s.
We estimate 2 years late in 1993, and that's the year I retires. I've got 6 years to go, and that's it. Yeah. But the plans are definitely there.
Wimpole retains a goods yard for cider traffic, the village being the headquarters of Whiteways.
That only leaves one part of the southern region not electrified, and that's Solby the basis though. Well, Solby the working 34 miles, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's ridiculous to leave that 34 mile out.
Well, yes.
It's actually ridiculous.
Rough old coach there.
This was always reputed to be the fastest part of the line in the steam days.
Was it?
Double track is regained at Pinhole, reopened on an experimental basis, although with disappointing results. The signals are the last remaining semaphores on the route and in the Exeter area. They'll shortly be eliminated as the final phase of the Exeter re-signalling scheme.
Yes, nasty gates.
They still got some at Bradford Junction, haven't they? 746.
They're still there, those ones.
Yeah.
So Pinhole Box will come out then shortly, presumably.
I don't know. I presume it will. Eventually.
This is the last southern signal on the line then, isn't it?
Oh, another one I'm running for.
Is it?
Well, yeah, made a night there. Really good. They are, yeah.
The Exmouth branch joins at Exmouth Junction, where the Southern had its main steam depot. The Exeter coal concentration depot is to the right.
This yard's now closer than coal. Or is it
Still got coal in there.
There is.
It's an awful lot of signal boxes, are we? Yeah.
Exeter Central was the Southern's main West Country station. Trains for the Withered Arm, the lines west of Exeter, were split here, going to destinations such as Padstow, Bude, Torrington and Ilfracombe.
There's a lot of cement in there now.
The only remnants of this through traffic were some Waterloo to Plymouth trains reversing at Exeter St David's and going via the western region, although none do so in the current timetable.
They're promoting this station a bit more, aren't they, locally? Bringing people.
Exeter Central, as its name implies, is situated centrally in the town. It's recently been refurbished and passengers are encouraged to use it for the first time in many years.
Coming to us.
Exeter St David's, the Great Western Station, underwent modernisation 2 years ago. Salisbury Line trains now effectively have their own station on the east side, whilst Western trains use the two lines to the left of our picture, where we see an HST departing for Paynton. One constant complaint about the Southern Line's service since the Western took control has been the failure to diagram satisfactory connections, this being a perfect example. The train to Paynton leaving the station as our train arrives, booked to leave 4 minutes beforehand.
I shouldn't bother it.
Well, this is where driver off Prattle gets off. Hope you've enjoyed the journey. You can come to Exmouth now if you like.
You're being on one of those nasty little things now.
Nice big bands.
Who released you now, Al?
Oh, one of our top men?
Wait, what? Logan works it out.
No, I don't think Charlie works it out.
Clean looking DMU up there with red buffer wing.
Yeah? What's the step when you get down?
Oh, that was crazy. You look after your train.
Many thanks.
Electrification of the East Anglian main line was completed in time for the May 1987 timetables. Electrics now run north of Ipswich. This one is from Norwich. Passengers wait patiently as another 86 races north. Needham Market only has one express a day, normally being served by local trains. Electrification necessitated the provision of a new swing bridge over the River Trowse at Norwich. The Round Tabler, formerly Goliath, leaves for London over the new single-line bridge. The locomotive was renamed at Norwich and broke the record for the line at 83 minutes 22 seconds on the 5th of May 1987. bridge has a novel form of solid catenary, necessary to allow the bridge to open. The foundations of the original bridge remain. Norwich Thorpe has changed dramatically since our views in Railscene 6. 86-214 Samparai departs for Liverpool Street past the site of the main Thorpe signal box. Journey times have been cut to 2 hours for the 115-mile journey, with 5 stops. The East Anglian takes 1 hour 40 minutes. The Norwich Station pilot, a Class 08, has been named the Canary after the city's football team. The club's mascot is a canary with a green head, so a green canary is okay. The Cambridge line has now been electrified to the University City. The wires have been extended from the previous northern point at Bishop Stortford. It's proposed to run a line from here to Stansted Airport. Modernisation has not swept all before it. Elsenham's gates are still gates and manually operated. Whilst the Norwich line is intercity, the Cambridge line is part of Network South East. Despite 86401 being painted in NSE colours, 86s are seconded from the West Coast main line in intercity colours. Through trains from King's Lynn change from diesel to electric power in Cambridge Station. The 47 in the background is King's Lynn. The Royston branch, the line from the East Coast main line to Cambridge, was not due to be electrified, but long after the Cambridge scheme had been started, it was decided to electrify it after all. Work commenced after completion to Cambridge as part of a rolling programme. Cambridge now only has 3 DMUs on its fleet, and these have been repainted in network colours. This unit was running wrong line due to the electrification works towards Royston. 13 miles of line is to be electrified. East Coast mainline electrification extended to Peterborough with the new timetable. Work continues ahead of target, and it's now anticipated that the wires through to Leeds will be energised a year ahead of schedule in October 1988. Peterborough has been the subject of much controversy. NSE EMUs work through to the station to a dedicated NSE platform, but the network does not extend beyond Huntingdon, and network saver fares are not available. Less HSTs call here now, and May the 8th saw the end of the locomotive-hauled commuter trains. The remains of the Great Central's route from Lincoln to Retford via Torksey now forms a branch from the Great Northern and Great Eastern joint at Sykes Junction to a Shell oil depot at Torksey. Trains reverse off the line onto the wrong road as the line is downhill from the junction towards Lincoln. All trains run to Stanlow. Lincoln Central was the joint GN-GE station and was also used by GC trains. DMUs predominate, with trains running to and from Doncaster, Peterborough, Sheffield, Cleethorpes and Birmingham, amongst others. Track work and signalling are unchanged since steam days, the busy High Street crossing remaining manually worked. This eastbound DMU is working to Grimsby and Cleethorpes. Behind the affectionately named Pilot, we can see the city's cathedral. Market Railscene is the only station remaining open out of 10 Great Central stations on the Lincoln to Barnetby line. The signal box now resides at Quorn on the preserved Great Central Railway. Barnetby is a pure Great Central junction, the route seen directly behind the sprinter leading to Gainsborough, to the right leading to Scunthorpe and Doncaster, and to the left to Lincoln. Old steel mineral wagons have been converted for ballast use. Holes are cut in the sides to prevent overloading. Both island platforms are still in use. To the left, a 31 is calling with a Cleethorpes train, whilst a rail freight sister runs through with ICI tanks. The station is at the heart of the Great Central System on Humberside, the only area where the railway had a virtual monopoly. The only intruder was the Great Northern. All GN lines have now been closed. Immingham docks were built by the GC, and Immingham-based 37s double-head ore trains from the docks to Scunthorpe. At Scunthorpe, there's still a vast network of freight-only lines and yards. 08s shunt the West Yard, which would make a feature on its own. In the background is a combined footbridge and crossing box, which is no longer in use, but still retains its fittings. In British Steel blue livery, now with a rail blue band at the bottom of the body sides, 37501 Teesside Steelmaster, paired with 37502 British Steel Teesside, brings a terminating steel empties train in from the Doncaster direction before moving on to Frottingham Depot. Scunthorpe's BSC plant is a major rail freight customer, with ore traffic to the east at Immingham and steel traffic to the west. A light 37 comes off the freight-only loop on the Brocklesby Triangle from Alseby and Immingham in the early evening. Where the line to New Holland Pier once branched off, the first two officially named Class 20s, Murray B. Hoffmeyer and Cleveland Potash, work a freight train from the Associated Chemical Works at Barton-on-Humber through New Holland Station. These two machines were named at Boulby Mine on Teesside and are allocated to Thornaby, officially dedicated to the potash traffic. Finally, just outside Grimsby, we see South Humberside's only through train to London, the Humber Lynx, which leaves Cleethorpes at 06:20 and reaches King's Cross 3 hours later. Workings at Immingham and Grimsby are covered in Rail Tour 3. The highlight of steam workings in summer 1987 was the Cambrian coast workings. The Seven Valleys Ivat Mogul was the third locomotive to work there after the Standard Class 4 suffered firebox steam leaks. The loco yard took on a real steam atmosphere during the steam days, as the locomotives were kept in the shed itself. Star Turn was the manor, which was the only one of the three engines to have worked on the Cambrian lines in BR days. The steam workings started with a week in May, after the clearance trials seen in our last edition. There were no workings in June, but the full season started on Monday, July the 20th, with 2 return journeys a day from Mondays to Wednesdays until early September. For the May workings and the first week of the July runs, the manor was accompanied by BR Standard Class 4, number 75069. This is an ex-Southern Region machine, but other class members were associated with the Cambrian lines to the end of everyday steam. Coaling facilities were provided at the west end of the yard, and water was supplied from a tank wagon at the cattle dock. The steam engines virtually had the yard to themselves, giving an authentic steam shed atmosphere. Workings were extended to Pwllheli and Aberystwyth on alternate Sundays from July the 26th to August the 30th. Hinton Manor is seen leaving for the former place with a full 10-coach load on the second trip. The Pwllheli and Aberystwyth routes diverge at Dyfi Junction and run on opposite sides of the river estuary. On her first working to Aberystwyth, the 7819 takes to the southern side with a 7-coach load, which includes the Seven Valleys observation saloon at the rear. principal bank on the route is the 1 in 75 climb up to Dolibont, the distant signal being that for the level crossing at Llandra. At the terminus, the manor reversed the coaches out of the platform to run round its train prior to running tender first back to Machynlleth. There are no turning facilities anywhere on the Cambrian lines. Outside the Vale of Rydal shed stands number 8, which has recently had the Cambrian name painted on. During the summer, it was revealed that BR was preparing to privatise the Rydal line. Back at Dovey Junction, we see the Standard Class 4 pulling out of the station and crossing the wooden bridge over the River Dovey to the northern bank. The station is well known for the fact that it has no normal road access and is purely a railway junction. It still sports a fine array of GWR signals, but these will be removed if plans to radio signal the Cambrian route come about. This was the second working for the Standard, which was positioned to work in the opposite direction to the manor, and was the 1340 train from Machynlleth to Barmouth on the Thursday of the first week of workings in May. All previous workings were undertaken by Hinton Manor, including the previous day, which had been booked for the Standard. A few miles further down the estuary, the Ivat Mogul brings a morning train back from Barmouth. Despite having only a Class 2 rating, the locomotive showed no difficulties in working the 6-coach set, which was used on normal weekday workings to Barmouth. The manor was used on the Sunday specials to the termini at Aberystwyth and Pwllheli. The line is well known for the way it hugs the cliff sides for much of the route, but as it moves from the Dovey estuary to the sea coast, it runs across sand dunes past Aberdyfi Golf Course. This is a weekday working with the manor running northwards. At Towan, the only scheduled stop on the southbound run was to cross a service train. On this occasion, the return of the working seen earlier, the BR Loco had stopped but had not had to cross. As she departed, Tully Finn locomotives whistled a greeting. From above Barmouth town, a fine panorama of the harbour makes a backdrop for the LMS Mogul setting out on the return journey. From the Fairbourne Railway terminus, on the other side of the river, 46443 is seen running across the famous viaduct. Fairbourne trains whistle behind us as they rush into a tunnel before returning along the sand dunes to Fairbourne. Three public trains were run to Pwllheli in July and August. This is the second one, 10 coaches behind the manor. '7819 departs from the northern terminus past modern motive power. This feature has covered workings up to the beginning of August. Further runs were due for the rest of the month and into September. By all accounts, the first season has been a great success, and it's to be hoped it will not be the last season. One of Britain's most fascinating railways runs to the top of the highest mountain in Wales, Snowdon. Seldom appearing in print, the Snowdon Mountain Railway is operated as a commercial enterprise by the Snowdon Mountain Railway Limited. The company's entire wagon fleet is seen preparing to leave the company's headquarters at Llanberis as a works train propelled by locomotive number 8. The company is rebuilding the terminal station at Snowdon Summit, and the railway is the only transport to the top of the mountain. Snowdon is 3,560 feet high and is a favourite centre for walkers and hikers throughout the year. The railway runs from Easter to the first weekend in October, the first public train leaving Llanberis at 9 a.m, diesel powered. The works train leaves before the first passenger run. The railway has 7 steam engines, 2 built in 1895, 2 in 1896, one in 1922 and two in 1923. In addition, it has two diesels, built in 1986. The railway was opened in 1896, and locomotive number 4, Snowdon itself, was one of the original machines supplied for the opening. In the background are two of the 1920s built locomotives, number 7 to the left and number 6 to the right. The steam engines were all supplied by the Swiss Locomotive Works at Winterthur and are of two designs. The boilers are set at an angle to the frames and all operate facing up the mountain at all times. The system in use is the Swiss ABT one. Number 7, Ralph, has a whistle made from a shell case by the man polishing it. The locomotive is then seen coming to collect its coach for the day's work. The ABT system used involves the laying of two toothed racks fixed side by side down the centre of the rails, as seen from the guard's position of coach 4, propelled by Snowdon. Locomotives have cogged wheels which engage the rack for traction. The ascent proper starts just after passing the locomotive sheds, the railway climbing over a steeply inclined viaduct. This is number 7 again. Trains are propelled up the mountain and led down by the locomotive. Each coach bears the same number as its engine and has a maximum capacity of 60 passengers. One of the line's two diesels is seen ascending just above the private road which reaches the lower slopes of the mountain. The diesels did not displace semi-steam engines but increased overall capacity. They're usually used on the 9 o'clock and 9:30 departures, with steam used on the remainder. At busy times, two trains run up one behind the other, as seen here, where trains cross at Hebron, first of the stations on the mountain. Trains are run at 5 miles an hour due to the severe gradients, and all consist of one coach and a locomotive only. The gauge is 2 foot 7.5 inches, and the line is 4 3/4 miles long. It's the only rack railway in the British Isles. There are 3 intermediate stations on the line, the middle one appropriately named Halfway. Here locomotives take water and trains cross. We awaited the returning works train before alighting from our train at the 3rd and last crossing station, Clogwyn. where we see our train, pushed by Snowdon, make the final ascent to the summit. The summit station is virtually at the top of the mountain and is often obscured by cloud. It's currently being rebuilt, and we will be issuing a further program in due course showing the railway and its stations in greater detail. On Tuesday, June the 16th, 1987, the North Norfolk Railway, the last working section of the former Midland and Great Northern Railway, celebrated the centenary of the M&GN. Invited guests were brought by a special train to Weybourne and included more than 200 local school children in Victorian costume. The railway's chairman, David Morgan, gave a speech and announced the reenactment of the arrival of the first goods train at Weybourne from Holt in 1887.
I think without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to go.
The Preservation Company has now opened its extension to Holt as a diesel service, with steam commencing next year. The railway's ex-GER J15 has been outshopped in Great Eastern Royal Blue. It looked splendid at the head of the Brighton Bell Pullmans on a special working laid on for the benefit of the cameras of members of the Railway Video and Film Guild, who had a meeting at the railway that day. After 3 years of operation with LMS Black 5s, 1987 saw the reintroduction of the LNER steam power to the West Highland. The NELP Group's K1 2005 is seen leaving Fort William and passing the last remaining semaphore signals on the West Highland lines at Malig Junction. The Peppercorn-designed K1s worked the Malig extension in BR days in association with Gresley K2s, and the return of the Mogul brought back a note of authenticity to the Highland. A feature on the West Highland steam in the 1950s is included in Volume 1 of the Cam Canwell collection. K1 is reportedly popular with the Fort William crews, and certainly displayed no difficulty in tackling the gradients to Glenfinnan, even on a day of torrential rains as she approaches the famous concrete viaduct. After the customary stop at Glenfinnan, the Mogul departs to the west, climbing to the summit 2.5 miles beyond the station. The locomotive is very sure-footed and is stronger on the banks than the nominally far more powerful Black Fives. The grandeur of the Highlands is what makes this area such a tourist mecca, and BR's third year of steam working of the Mallaig line shows no sign of any diminution of popularity. Perhaps one of the finest stretches is alongside the waters of Lochaut, where we see the K1 running gently on the only level stretch of line beyond Glenfinnan. Although a shadow of its former self, Mallaig still has a special air about it. However, where the engine shed once stood, a new approach road from the town is under construction, so these scenes will change yet again before the next season. Thanks to Cam Canmore, we can now take you back 30 years to an earlier era of VR steam in the West Highlands. Here we see two more K1s approaching Banavi Bridge over the Caledonian Canal. A double header has a Gresley K2 piloting a K1. A brief glimpse of the old Fort William station shows that black fires are also part of the true Highland scene. Fort William Shed's turntable would be a very valuable asset today. At Speen Bridge, first station out from Fort William, a branch used to run up to Fort Augustus on Loch Ness. A standard class 5 heads a southbound express. Gresley's K2s were named after lochs. As Argyll gives way to Perthshire, the West Highland line comes down from Raddock Moor, hugging the mountains around a great horseshoe curve. First we see two southbound trains, and then a northbound one. Double heading was frequent, particularly in bad weather. Crossing the Callander and Oban line just north of Crianlarich is a Fort William bound train double-headed by BR and LMS Class 5s, whilst a single BR example approaches Crianlarich Upper Station. Two black 5s are taking the connecting line from the North British station at Crianlarich Upper to the Callander and Oban line below. This is now the only route to Oban. Coming in from the south are two LNER moguls, which go into the yard as another pair leave with a train for Glasgow. The two black 5s return up the connecting cord with a train from the LMS route. This black 5 is approaching from Oban, awaiting another from the Callander direction. Despite appearances, the line was single, the other lines at Crianlarich Junction being for passing purposes. One Calais Survivor was still in use as a pilot. Between Crianlarich and Oban, Connell Ferry was a substantial station at the junction of the Ballachulish branch, which also served Kinlochleven. The inevitable black 5s dominated workings. The bridge at Connell Ferry was interesting in that trains and cars shared one span. Today, only cars use it. To the east of Crianlarich, a short branch left the C&O to serve Loch Tay. By 1957, the line had been cut back to Killen. On the North British line south of Crianlarich, Cam caught an NB 442 tank on a West Highland working. On the old Great North of Scotland line in the Spey Valley, Cam filmed a Thompson B1 passing one of the region's famous distilleries. LMS Moguls worked on the GNOS. This one is seen at the delightful Grandtown-on-Spey South Station. It still partly survives despite a recent road improvement scheme. On Loch Lomond, BR operated pressure steamers. Note the BR line on wheel crest on the bow of the Maid of the Loch. The pier station at Balloch has only recently closed. The latest preserved railway to join the ranks of operating lines is the East Lancashire Railway from Bury to Rawtenstall. Initially, trains are being run as far as Ramsbottom, and it's expected that the extension to Rawtenstall will be opened in 1989. The first public steam run left Bury on Sunday the 26th of July at 12 p.m. Trains run hourly in the mornings, the first three diesel-powered, starting at 9 o'clock on Saturdays, the first two on Sundays. At present, trains only work at weekends. The line opened on Saturday, the 25th of July, with a special double-headed train for invited guests, which is seen heading north past the former goods depot. The railway is the operating arm of the Bury Transport Museum, which has amassed a collection of stock for use on the line over a number of years. The project has the support of the local authority, which enabled the line to be opened quickly after BR abandoned it. Bury has a fine collection of diesels, and their Class 40 is seen approaching Bury from the north. Reproduction station buildings are scheduled for the stations at Somerset and Ramsbottom. The first public train ran on Sunday the 26th of July, behind D823 Onslaught. This warship was withdrawn in 1972 and used at Derby RTC prior to preservation. Here the train is entering Nuttall Tunnel on the return journey. On the outward working, the Class 42 is seen between Brooks Bottom and Nuttall Tunnels. The principal anniversary to be celebrated by BR in 1987 was for Crewe Works, founded 150 years ago. A Crewe Heritage Centre has been constructed on the site of the earliest works and the opening was heralded by a cavalcade of crew-built locomotives. D200 hauled the Duke of Gloucester, together with the East Lancashire Railway's Class 52 and 24 diesels, the latter a remarkable achievement for a railway which was just opening. Butterley provided an LMS 8F, completed in a remarkably short time, which brought the traditional crew outline of LNWR Cornwall to the centre. Star turn was Princess Elizabeth, due to be seen by Her Majesty the Queen, after whom she was named, when she formally opened the centre on July the 24th. The Lizzie had worked a Hereford to Chester excursion 2 days previous to the crew cavalcade and is seen heading north. During the festival, the LMS Pacific was used to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the south end of the LNWR on the Euston 150 Limited, which ran over the S&C. The 6201 also worked an excursion south of Hereford, seen here north of Abergavenny. The train ran to Newport, where Burton Agnes Hall took over for the run along the Severn to Gloucester and Swindon. The train is seen from the formation of the former Severn and Y Junction Railway, which ran over the Severn Bridge. The signal box at Purton remains, and the farmer, on whose land it stands, has presented it to the Forest of Dean Railway. A pleasant surprise was the quick repairs to King George V, which operated a rail tour to celebrate its 60th birthday along the Welsh borders. Here, number 6000 is tackling the newly aligned formation north of Wrexham. The King is due to retire in 1987, and will have a special tribute feature in Railscene 13. The King's former shedmate, Clanline, tackled another bank at Porton as part of the Southern's programme of steam from Salisbury, this time also running to Andover. On the Salisbury-Yeovil route, the Bullied raised echoes of the Ace as she roared through Dinton. Second engine at Salisbury was a Flying Scotsman. The A3 is seen shortly after leaving Andover for Salisbury, at the junction for the Ludgershall branch, which was scheduled to see steam in September. 4472 had a remarkable 10-day period in steam, working daily in early June. For a full week, she ran from Leicester to Tyseley on a series of private excursions over new mileage from Wigston to Water Orton, and is seen just after passing over the West Coast main line at Nuneaton. The Gresley Pacific had a setback on its last Sellafield sightseer rail tour and required a diesel pilot on the outward journey. However, remedial action at Sellafield was successful, and she made up for it on the return journey. Scotsman's look-alike, Green Arrow, also had a busy summer season. She was employed on the special trains celebrating the second Tay Bridges centenary. The V2 made 2 runs over the bridge, as did the Scottish Region's first sprinter unit, for the benefit of specially invited guests. After the celebrations, 4771 ran on down the East Coast main line back to her base at York Railway Museum. Green Arrow also ran on the ECML in connection with Darlington celebrations instead of the S15 number 841, before running south to Marylebone for a short season on Shakespeare trains. We see her south of Banbury on the journey south. At Marylebone, Green Arrow was to join Sir Nigel Gresley, which is seen on a private charter at the terminus. Another private charter was run from Marylebone behind Clanline a fortnight later, here returning from Dorwich. On this occasion, the complete Pullman rake was in use, with Tyseley's Great Western Super Saloon at the rear. The Merchant Navy was a surprise substitute for Colapur on the 3rd at the Nottingham and Derby to Matlock specials. She's not the first of her class to visit the city, as Orient Line visited the Great Central in its dying days. The first two Chatsworth trains were powered by the Butterley-based ex-S&D 7F 53809. On the second run, torrential rain made conditions far from easy for the crew, who erected the storm sheet from cab to tender. The second reserve 7F, owned by the S&D Trust, was nearing completion as we prepared this issue. We're making a special program to record the restoration of the locomotive, which had been undertaken on behalf of the Trust by the West Somerset Railway. One locomotive restoration which was completed in the south of England was the Ury S15 number 506 on the Mid-Hants. This is the only working example of Ury's LSWR locomotives. Another LSWR locomotive on an LSWR branch is the Adams B4, which was loaned to the Swanage Railway by the Bluebell during the summer. The Swanage Railway made further progress in its ambition to reach Corfe Castle and Wareham by extending beyond Hurston Halt towards Harmon's Cross. Until the latter is reached, trains are propelled westwards from Hurston. The only surviving locomotive from the Fursbrook Railway at Corfe Castle, Russell, has recently been restored to use on the Welsh Highland Railway at Portmaddock in North Wales, and we see her in light grey undercoat. At Portmaddock in June, another of the Class 37-4s used on the Cambrian lines was named at a ceremony at the station. Another 37 in Wales powered a special consisting of Network South East stock over the Central Wales line. Two Class 20s were used on another rail tour, the Stilton and Branston Ploughman, seen at Leamington. A major reopening in the Birmingham area is the Coventry to Nuneaton line, which has been freight only for many years. DMUs connect the two ex-LNWR main lines via Birmingham and Tamworth. A further freight-only LNWR link to be reopened to passenger traffic is the Oxford to Bletchley line, as far as Bicester. Just before reopening, the signal box was destroyed by fire. NSE also opened a completely new station. This is Lake, between Sandown and Shanklin on the Isle of Wight. For the first time in over 20 years, this was a positive move forward for the island's railways. Another brand new holiday-oriented station was opened in Blackpool in May. Formal reopening took place in July, and we recorded the scene. The station hopefully marks a new step forward in appearance, as it's been built in traditional style, the only previously existing structure being the footbridge. Although pacers in provincial and Greater Manchester liveries officiated at the opening, sprinters are the normal stock on the line. South Wales's latest station is at Tyglass, erected within sight of Corriton, which remains open. DMUs operate the City Line services from Cardiff. The latest Sprinter variant is the Leyland-built Class 155. These units are to be allocated to Cardiff for use in South Wales on the Cardiff to Portsmouth cross-country route. The second unit to be delivered is seen on crew training duties at Cardiff. D200 was at work for a period in South Wales on passenger duties on the Crewe to Newport trains in the early summer. She's recently undergone a further repaint in green livery. Another last diesel survivor is Tamworth Castle, the Class 25, retained at Leeds Holbeck for training purposes. This machine is also due to be repainted into early BR green livery. The other class to be eliminated entirely in early summer was Class 27, and we see one of these on its last duties, hauling ballast on the East Coast Main Line in Scotland, whilst restricted to 45 miles an hour. Life after death has been granted to one of ScotRail's DMUs, which has been converted for use as an observation saloon on the Kyle of Lochaulsh line. Loose seating has been installed, and a hostess gives a running commentary on the line's spectacular scenery. On return journeys to Inverness, the saloon has to be marshalled behind the locomotive, as it can't be turned at the Kyle. On the southern region, the two surviving Hastings units were used on a wide-ranging rail tour. The 4-car unit has recently been repainted in its original green livery.
Yeah.
The units were run down to Weymouth Quay and ran along the harbour tramway through the streets. Electrification of the Weymouth line is accompanied by the replacement of the REP and TC stock. Whilst the new stock is being built, using some of the REP's power equipment, Class 73s are being used as motive power on semi-fast services. Special TCB sets have been formed by combining REP buffet cars and TC unpowered sets. One Class 73 is to be repainted in early livery like the Class 86 prepared for the Intercity 21 celebrations. It was also used for the Euston 150 Limited in July. The Class 89 is still the latest locomotive type on BR, as the Class 87/2, now redesignated Class 90, prototype is not yet completed. The 89 continues trials and is seen on the southern end of the West Coast Main Line.